Up here? And on that note, I'll quickly note that everybody's present with the exception of Mayor Jim Gilvin, and Donald is also out.
So this year we are celebrating our Arbor Day with Innovation Academy, and we have 2 students from the Environmental Stewardship Club and their teacher. And then the rest of the people up here are the members of the Natural Resource Commission. Mike Buchanan, the gentleman in the middle, is the chair.
All right, thank you, David. On this Arbor Day of 2025, by the Mayor and Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, a proclamation. Whereas the first Arbor Day was celebrated in 1872 in Nebraska as a special day for planting trees, it has grown to thousands of celebrations in communities across the nation each year. Whereas trees will be planted across the United States, creating a lasting legacy for future generations, and where planted, may that area be a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas trees improve water quality, reduce the erosion of precious topsoil, increase property values and economic vitality in business areas, provide shade, cleanse the air, create habitat for wildlife, and add beauty to communities. And whereas trees promote outdoor recreation, which improves human health and well-being and reduces nature deficit disorder in children by encouraging more activity and connection to the natural world. And whereas this year we are excited to jointly celebrate with the Innovation Academy along with other community partners, families, and friends at our local Arbor Day ceremony on Friday, February 14th, to recognize the benefits of trees and urban forests. And whereas all of Alpharetta benefits from trees and urban forestry, which contributes to the local economy and enjoyment of the outdoors. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Alpharetta, do hereby proclaim February 14th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Alpharetta, and urge all our citizens to plant trees to promote the well-being of present and future generations, and thus support our city's beautification and forestry program for years to come. So proclaim this 10th day of February 2025 by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia.
Yeah, I can update you real quickly. We're having a little bit of problem with the video system. We're fine with the audio system, so we just need to stop trying the video system and not disrupt this meeting. But we will have a recording of the meeting, just not a video of it. But we can proceed.
All right, thank you. First up.
Never happens when Mayor Gilvin's here.
Oh, friends like that, right? All right, thank you for coming. First up tonight is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Second?
I have a motion to approve by Councilman Will, excuse me,
We have to allow for public comment on every agenda item per the code, so if you could just
including the
ask for
consent
that,
agenda.
including
Anybody
the
would like to speak on the consent agenda?
We have no public comment cards.
Thank you. Should I call for another motion?
I think you already have a motion. You're
Okay, I have a motion from Councilman Will, second by Councilman Dorito. All those in favor? Perfect. First item on this event after that is our work session item tonight, which is Article 9 of the Code of the City of Alpharetta, massage and spa establishments. City Attorney Ms. Eswine is going to lead us in this one.
Yes, thank you. So in working with staff, there were a couple of points that we wanted to modify in the massage and spa establishment ordinance. So just going to go through that quickly with you. There's not a whole lot to this. The primary reason for the revisions to the ordinance is to require the fingerprinting for a national criminal history search for any applicants for a massage license. Now, this would not apply for the work permits, but only the people who are responsible for the license, the members of the corporate entities, that sort of thing. And this would just allow for us to, through GCIC, run the fingerprints, get the criminal history record information on a national basis to compare it to the licensing criteria that's in our code. So that would be the first provision. The second is to require a survey that would be submitted with all new license applications. This is really just kind of a housekeeping issue. We already have requirements in the ordinance specifying where massage and spa establishments can be in relation to certain roads, schools, churches, things like that. This is just requiring a survey to be submitted so that it's easily verified. And that's similar to what we do for other ordinances that include licensing like alcohol. Then there are a couple of additional licensing and permitting criteria to be added for specified activity, criminal activity, and related to violations. So it's consistent with the purpose and intent of the code, but there are certain criminal actions that you would have to disclose as an applicant if you'd been convicted of them, and also if you have had 3 or more ordinance violations, and that would mean convictions. So not just a charge, not just a citation, but actual convictions that an applicant would have to be required to disclose and that they would be prohibited from having. And then lastly would be for renewals. Currently, the ordinance provides that a license is for a term of 1 year, and you have to go through the entire permitting process every single year, which staff was hoping to make a little bit more efficient. So, if we have verified your location one time, it would make sense that we wouldn't need, if your location isn't changing, to require another survey that the applicant would have to incur the cost to get. And so it just provides for abbreviated renewal period or applications if an applicant certifies that the information has otherwise stayed the same. And beyond that, there's a couple of cleanup items that aren't substantive at all. And that's the extent of the changes. So if y'all are comfortable with those changes, or if you want to hear anything more about it, please let me know.
Anybody have any questions? No questions? Councilman Heitz?
Ms. Eswine, when these licenses are established and we've got did I hear a database or something to check against? Or
So what we're talking about for the database that I was meaning is if we just run a criminal background check based on name and information that we're given only, then it would be only through the Georgia records for criminal history. If we get fingerprinting, though, through the GBI, we can actually have a national criminal history search conducted. So if someone had been, say, convicted of prostitution in Alabama or New York, it would be returned with this new fingerprinting process, whereas that wouldn't necessarily show up for a Georgia criminal history record report that we're getting currently. So if someone relocates to the state of Georgia looking for a fresh start, at present we wouldn't know if they have a history of issues that are kind of aimed at in this ordinance.
if you touched on this, I'm just going to apologize for missing it, but much like an alcohol license, there has to be a person, not an entity, correct?
Yes, so there, the
Because
ordinance.
you're going to fingerprint people.
Right, so the ordinance actually specifies who has to apply, just like in our alcohol code, if we have a corporate entity, various individuals have to meet all of the licensing requirements, and the same is true for our massage and spa establishment ordinance. And so any person who has to meet the requirements for the license, even if it's because it's a corporate entity and they're a particular shareholder or officer or the named licensee, they would all have to comply with those standards.
And since we're trying to do an even better job, because I think we do a good job as a city on this particular industry, but if we're trying to not have bad actors, so to speak, and trying to avoid a straw person being put forward as the person holding the license, which I have heard anecdotally that sometimes alcohol licenses may work that way. we're doing what we can to address that, to make sure that the actual owner of whatever the entity is, that the person's behind an LLC, that we do have that person.
That's right. So you hit the nail on the head, and the ordinance actually already is well drafted to address that. And the requirement for what I've talked about, the additional licensing criteria, applies to a multitude of people. So in addition to just the person who's going to be the named licensee, it applies to the various officers, shareholders, the corporate entities. But it goes so far as, and because of the way the illicit types of businesses that the ordinance is aimed at keeping out of Alpharetta, right? The way that they typically or frequently work is that they're very, for lack of a better term, incestuous. You know, you have one person who may hold the license, and if they get a violation, they just kind of transfer it to another person, or shell type situation. Sometimes it's within family members. Frequently, in my experience in prosecuting ordinance violations in other jurisdictions nearby, it's family members. It might be a husband or a wife or a sister or something along those lines, and frequently they live together. Your ordinance actually already provides that the applicant or a person who's required to submit, you know, under this section, has in the previous 12 months resided with someone who has been one of these people. So they have to disclose and show not only that they are compliant or that any of the other officers or shareholders are compliant, but they also have to show that they haven't lived with someone who has had any of these violations, which, you know, is aimed at exactly what you were talking about. And that requirement's already in the code. I just added the additional requirements to that same section
Okay.
for the disclosures.
And it seemed to me it addressed all those things, but to talk through it, and I apologize for not having that opportunity to talk through it with
No,
you
it's a great
prior
question.
to the meeting. But I just want to make sure that we're getting to the people who are actually running the business and held accountable. So,
Right, so that language about the various criminal activity and the 3 strikes under the ordinance, I think if you looked through, it's probably in here 4 or 5 times, if not more than that, aimed at making sure that it hits on every single person that is required.
thank you.
3 strikes sounds pretty generous. Do we have any comment cards? Go ahead.
Just from a work session kind of perspective, I think we all should be pretty supportive of this. I mean, just adding all the protections for our citizens in these particular situations, I think is always a benefit. All these really are kind of updates, so overall, I think it's very positive in every way we can. That's all. Thank you.
Very well. Yes, sir, Mr. Reader.
Just a question, since it's a workshop, I'm just curious, is there any information that we could receive on any issues associated with these types of establishments for the last couple of years in the city, or?
Within the city, I would have to defer to code and law enforcement on whether there have been any issues for the, if you mean for violations under the ordinance, or
violations.
individuals who've applied who wouldn't qualify. I haven't had any direct experience with that. I prosecute this in other jurisdictions, so I'm more aware of it there. But I'd ask Brett to speak to that.
We've not had any, well, you'd think I'd know that. We haven't had any that we've turned down so far this year. We do have 2 businesses that have filed for the exemption that's allowed by the director. And we do semi-annual inspections at each of the places. We have had some changes that we've had to do, but we've not had anybody that we've had to revoke or not issue a license to.
So I guess, put in layman's terms, I get into the details of what I'm referring to, we haven't identified any sort of illegal activities in these types of establishments in Alpharetta to date, and that these changes would only bolster up our ability to enforce strict provisions around the operation of these facilities, correct?
We have identified some procedures that we've had to tell people they don't fit our ordinance. And they have taken those from their website, from their menu boards.
Okay,
But that's it.
good. Thank you, Brett.
That's all I've got for you.
Yeah.
We're all good. Anybody else? All right, thank you. So I look forward to this coming back up soon.
Yes, so the ordinance is, as you have in your backup, already drafted. I would just need to do the adopting resolution, so we'll get it advertised and placed on a public hearing agenda.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for our work session items this evening. We'll move on to new business. First up under new business is the ordinance of fiscal year 2025 mid-year budget amendment. Mr. Tom Harris.
And while he comes up, I'm going to go ahead and read the title, if you don't mind. An ordinance by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, to adopt a fiscal 2025 budget amendment for certain funds of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, appropriating the amount shown in each budget as expenditures, adopting the item of revenue anticipation, prohibiting expenditures to exceed appropriations, and prohibiting expenditures to exceed actual funding available.
Very efficient. This is the first reading of the 2025 mid-year budget amendment. The only change to this item that was discussed in detail at the retreat is a sort of required transfer between the two retiree health funds. And other than that, it's the same as what was presented at that meeting.
Anybody have any questions for Director Harris? Thank you.
We have no public comment cards, sir.
You can read my mind. In case anybody's out there that didn't have a comment card turned in, if you'd like to discuss the mid-year budget, come on down. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and ask for a vote.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance the fiscal year 2025 mid-year budget amendment, the adopt an ordinance, the first reading of the mayor and the city of council of Alpharetta, Georgia, to adopt the fiscal year 2025 mid-year budget as presented.
I have a motion from Councilman Brady, a second from Councilman Will. All those in favor, vote accordingly. If not, vote accordingly. And it passes. Thank you. Next up, PH-25-02, the Unified Development Code Text Amendment, Third-Party Inspection Plan and Review. This is our second reading. Ms. Cook.
I'm going to read while she comes up. An ordinance by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, to amend Article 4 of the Unified Development Code of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, to add regulations pertaining to third-party inspections and plan review, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes.
There are no changes from the first reading, but of course I can answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Director Cook? Thank you. Any comment cards this evening?
There are none.
Thank you. With that, I'll go ahead and call for a vote.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, make a motion that council approve the text amendments to the Unified Development Code, amending UDC Article 4 procedures to add regulations pertaining to third-party inspections and plan review.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hypes and a second by Councilman Brady. All those in favor? And it does pass unanimously. Next up is item relocation of North Point Parkway T-Splosh funds to Alpha Link project. Mr. Pete, Mr. Cizik.
Good evening. Per the direction of council at the retreat, this agenda item takes the funds that were allocated towards the North Point Parkway corridor, moves them over to the Alpha Link project, and creates the Alpha Link project as a T-Splosh 2 project. And then additionally, we will be removing all the federal funds associated with both of those projects from our books.
Very good. Anybody have any questions? Councilman Hypes?
Pete, for the record, and those in the room, the amount being reallocated?
It's about $10 million in total.
And that $10 million will be earmarked going forward for the Alpha Link?
Correct.
And we have no public comment cards.
Thank you very much, Pete. Thank you.
Thank you.
That being said, do I have a motion this evening?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, move to approve the reallocation of North Point Parkway Corridor T-Splosh funds to the Alpha Link project, development of a T-Splosh 2 Alpha Link project, and to authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion from Mr. Dorito, second by Mr. Will, and John Hypes is waving a finger at me. What can I do you?
Are we having a discussion on this matter?
Well, let's go right ahead and have a discussion, yeah.
Well, this was a matter that came up at retreat, and with the changes going on, and potential changes going on at North Point, and the way the public has embraced the Alpha Loop, and of course the Alpha Link will connect Haynes Bridge down to Encore Parkway. I think this is another really, really exciting day for Alpharetta. It's a long way from actually seeing concrete being poured, but you don't get to concrete being poured until you get the money and the resources there to make those things happen. And like so many things for the Alpha Loop, since its inception, it seemed very theoretical, and then all of a sudden money got appropriated. And the next thing you know, they were out there building that beautiful section behind Village Tavern that goes from Old Milton Parkway down to North Winds. Well, this is another just really great moment for Alpharetta. We won't see the fruits of this for quite some time, but this is a tangible start, another step in that direction to take the Alpha Loop and connect it all the way through, eventually reaching down to the Greenway. So I'm excited what council decided to do at retreat. I'm excited about this reallocation. I'm excited about the Alpha Link. They're going along 400 down to Encore, taking another tangible step to being created. So, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, then I'll call for a vote at this time. And that does pass unanimously. Thank you, Pete. Next up, request for proposal 25-109, public safety vehicle uplifting. Chief Robinson.
Good evening. We are asking for your consideration to award a contract for request for proposal 25-109 to Dana Safety Supply and ProLogic for public safety vehicle upfitting, with the authorization of the mayor to execute all necessary documents. Basically, these are the two companies we will utilize to do all our upfitting. That dollar amount there you see, this is not an amount we're paying right now. This is not costing us anything at this point. That is an estimated amount of upfitting cost based on our annual fleet replacement budgeted item that we have every year. So that's what that $625,000 is for.
Anybody have any questions for Director Brian?
Chief, why do we have two contractors?
Because number one, with the amount of upfitting we need, sometimes we need a backup. Honestly, it's just to have a backup, to have a second company that we can utilize. We've used both these companies before. Dana's typically our number one, but ProLogic has helped us at times when we've been in a pinch, and maybe Dana's gotten too far behind, and we can utilize them as well.
So who is the primary contractor?
Dana's always our first one. That's who we typically use for most of our items.
So for argument's sake, Dana's 68 and ProLogic is 62. Why is Dana the primary when they scored almost identical?
The type of equipment that we use and we've been using for several years, they're the supplier of that, and typically we found their service to be a little better overall. So that's just a company that has taken care of our vehicles, like I said, for I don't know how many years now. And so they have the equipment that we currently utilize on our vehicles. So if repair work, they're the company that we would utilize. ProLogic does not necessarily have the same type of upfitting equipment, and so Dana's always going to be our first option.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Dorito.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Chief, I just want it talks about the staff recommendation, it refers to as a 5-year contract. Is that, 625 is for fiscal year 25 only, right?
Correct.
So are we approving a 5-year contract at that particular?
All you're approving tonight's the contract. Again, there's no associated cost with the contract. That is a estimated amount of what it will typically cost per year based on our current vehicle renewal program.
And the 25 is typically what you replace each year, right? As far as
it depends on. I mean, we have an allocated amount of
average.
Yeah, average.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
All right. That's all. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We have no public comment cards on this item.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, then I will call for a motion.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, I would make a recommendation to make a motion to award RFP 25-109 to Dana Safety Supply, Inc. and ProLogic ITS LLC for public safety vehicle uplifting, 5-year contract term, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I got a motion and a second. Any comments? No comments, then I'll call for a vote. And it does pass unanimously. Thank you. Next up is a memorandum of understanding for Home by Dark. I think this will bring Director Rogers.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. It's always a pleasure and sometimes fun to come and be in front of y'all. But tonight, I'm asking for consideration of approval for the memorandum of understanding between the City of Alpharetta and Home by Dark for the calendar year 25. This is the same contract that we've had with them for several years. They're going to produce 6 concerts at Brook Street. Those dates are April the 26th, May the 10th, June the 14th, July the 12th, August the 9th, and September the 13th. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have about this particular memorandum of understanding.
Any questions for Director Rogers? Thank you, sir. Any comment cards?
We have none.
Got to check. Thank you. All right, I will call for a vote. I'll take a motion with it.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion that council approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Alpharetta and Home by Dark to approve the city summer concert series with Home by Dark at Brook Street Park from April to September of 2025 and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hypes, a second by Councilman Brady. Now we'll call for a vote.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, before you vote, could I just ask, just pause your vote just for a second? There's one reference in the contract on the first page to a name that the concert series is not going to travel under, which was Troubadours at Twilight or something. And so I'd ask that the motion just be slightly amended to remove any reference to that title. And if you could, Mr. Hypes, if you'd be willing to do that and then get a re-second, I think the motion would be more clear for us to move forward.
I will, and I meant to do that, and now I need to get to the page where that.
It's on page 1 of the contract at the very bottom.
Yep. Not on mine, but hang on, I'm going to get there. Are they on the signature page?
No, the reference is on the cover page of what would be the contract. Bottom of page 1, it's like large A, small b, 2.
Got it. Troubadours at Twilight?
Yes, just removal of that reference.
Oh, to remove it?
To remove the reference, correct.
From the contract?
Correct.
I thought we were going with that.
No, that's the one place that we didn't catch it. I think it's going to change to Songwriters at Sunset. So equally cool name, just not Troubadours at Twilight.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I amend my motion and restate it as previous, except to add that the contract will omit the reference to Troubadours at Twilight. Is that sufficient?
Agreed and accepted and seconded.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, I'd just like to add that Home by Dark has just been a tremendous partner with the city of Alpharetta. They have become a staple of downtown. Home by Dark and James Casto is one of the finest ambassadors for the city of Alpharetta that we have and that we work with. And, you know, we have got great momentum with the marketing of Alpharetta Music City. I'll even mention I was out of town last week, and I had an Alpharetta Music City shirt on, and somebody came up to me and says, "Oh, I've been to Alpharetta, and you guys have a great music scene." So we'll tell you that. And I was way out of town. I wasn't just outside of the suburbs. But part of that success is due to Home by Dark. They really were the start of Music Alpharetta and their commitment to downtown. And I'm really proud that we work with them and they work with us. And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councilman Hipes. You've been a big part of that from the very beginning, and I appreciate it. So, on that note, with a motion and a second from Hipes and Brady, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. And it does pass. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move into a string of resolutions, all pertaining to eminent domain. As we have said from the dais up here in the past, we don't take pride in eminent domain, or rarely do we ever actually use it. The process is used here to move the process along. So this is more to getting notified to the property owners that this needs to happen, otherwise they can hold up large projects. And this is a state highway project, mostly on Old Milton Parkway. So
with that, I will get started. So some preliminary comments. The resolutions for items F through L all have the same title, so unless y'all direct me to otherwise, I'm planning on reading the resolution only once, and then after y'all vote, I will just explain what the property is, who the condominies are, and leave it at that. I don't think y'all want to hear me read quite that much tonight. So
that works.
For parcel 3, I'll read the resolution in full. A resolution by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta authorizing the city attorney to exercise the city's powers of eminent domain to acquire certain interests in property situated in the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, for public purposes, including public transportation purposes. As you all know, this is for the Old Milton Parkway Improvement Project. This is for parcel 3, with the condomnee being Drew & Co. We've had the appraisal completed, and the just and adequate compensation to be awarded or paid into the registry of the court is $197,000 in this case. And this is all, and as well as all of the subsequent items, so that we can meet the project deadlines for actually having the right-of-way in the city's possession by March 8th. So once we file, we have to get everyone served, and once we've done that, you don't have to resolve the condemnation case, but the city would have the possession that it needs to keep the project moving forward. And that's the reason for the number that are on the agenda tonight, is so that we can meet that March 8th deadline.
Great, thank you. Then in this case, I would call for a motion of the resolution.
We would need to ask for any public comments on these resolutions, but we have none for parcel 3.
Can I ask for public comment on any of these, or just do them one at a time?
I think do them one at a time. If you're going to vote one at a time.
Okay, we'll vote one time. All right, any comments on parcel 3 of Old Milton Parkway? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, I call for a motion to adopt a resolution to authorize an eminent domain to acquire property interest in tax parcel number 12-3110-0911-021-0, parcel owners Drew & Company, of State Route 120 Old Milton Parkway from North Point Parkway to Kimball Bridge Road, and to authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. And the votes are in, it's unanimous. Thank you. Next, resolution authorizing the use of eminent domain for Old Milton Parkway improvements, parcel 11.
Yes, so as you said, this is for parcel number 11. The condominee here is PSC Holdings, Alpharetta LLC, and the just and adequate compensation to be paid into the court's registry is $8,700.
Okay. Any public comment on this item?
No comment cards.
Thank you. On that note, I will ask for a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion that council adopt the resolution to authorize use of eminent domain to acquire property interest in tax parcel number 11002000440175 of the State Road 120 Old Milton Parkway from North Point Parkway to Kimball Bridge Road, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? At this time, I'd ask for you to vote. And that one is unanimous. Ms. Swan?
The next item is for parcel 13 of the Old Milton Parkway Improvements Project. The condomnee here is the Camden Pond Condominium Association, Inc. The just and adequate compensation is $17,100.
Any discussion? Or any questions, I should say? None? Any comments?
We have no public comment cards on this item.
No discussion, no comments. I call for a motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to adopt a resolution to authorize the use of eminent domain to acquire property interest in parcel 13. Parcel owners Camden Pond Condominium Association, Inc. of State Route 120/Old Milton Parkway from North Point Parkway to Kimball Ridge Road, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I call for a vote. And it does pass. Next up.
The next parcel is parcel number 14, with the parcel owners being Marfam Enterprises, Inc., and the just and adequate compensation is $6,400.
Any questions? Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the authorization of use of eminent domain, consideration of the adoption of a resolution to authorize the use to acquire tax parcel number 110140004900985 of the State Route 120 Old Milton Parkway from North Point to Kimball Bridge, and authorization of the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I do have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. And it passes. Next up.
The next parcel is for parcel 15, with the parcel owners being 102-104 Greenwich Street, Manhattan Incorporated. The just and adequate compensation would be $9,400.
Any questions? Any public comment?
We have no cards, sir.
Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion that council adopt a resolution to authorize the use of eminent domain to acquire property interest in tax parcel 11014000490993 of State Road 120 Old Milton from North Point Parkway to Kimball Bridge Road, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. And it does pass.
The next one is for parcel number 20. The parcel owner here is Wealth Migrate Medical 3 Holdings, LLC, with just and adequate compensation being $5,000.
Questions? Public comment?
We have no public comment cards.
Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to adopt resolution to authorize use of eminent domain to acquire property interest in tax parcel number 110250009000401. Parcel owners Wealth Migrate Medical 3 Holdings, LLC. State Route 120 Old Milton Parkway from North Point Parkway to Kimball Bridge Road. Authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Seeing a motion and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. You going to vote? And it does pass. Next up.
Okay, Okay, the last one is for parcel number 21, with parcel owners being Clock Tower Investments LLC. Just and adequate compensation is $79,300.
Any questions? Any public comment?
We have no public comment cards, sir.
Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to adopt a resolution to authorize the use of eminent domain to acquire property interest in tax parcel number 11025001210537, parcel owners Clock Tower Investments LLC of the state Route 120/Old Milton Parkway from North Point Parkway to Kimberly Ridge Road, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
If y'all could hold on 1 second before you vote.
Mine says 8,700, which was a significant difference
parcel
than your,
21?
on 21. That was the difference from your 70,000.
79,300 is what I said for parcel 21. And I'm looking at the backup documents to make sure that I didn't misstate anything.
Okay, then I'll just note for the record that the staff report had an incorrect number on it. If it was published as $8,700, the correct number is
79,300.
79,300. So we will amend that in the staff report, but the motion is correct.
Okay. Did we call for a motion?
We have
Okay.
no public comment cards on this item.
Got it. All right. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. And it does pass. Thank you, Ms. Eswine. All right. Any public comments?
I have no public comment cards this evening.
Well, if you're here from the public and you'd like to comment, you're welcome to come on down. Otherwise, I will move on to reports. Anybody have any reports? I do. I know it was a while ago, a couple weeks back, and we've been meaning to talk about it a little bit, but our own Chris Lagerbloom was inducted into the Milton High School Hall of Fame. Chris, would you give us a little insight into what that was all about and what took place?
Oh, just, yeah, very, very briefly. Milton High School several years ago started a Hall of Fame with different criteria by which you could be nominated for induction. And I don't know who nominated me, but somebody did, and the board voted on it. I'm very appreciative of that. And clearly I didn't enter because of any amazing sports career. But I was sitting with a bunch of amazing athletes. So I think is just in recognition and a commitment to this area and these communities for the past 3 decades. And again, I'm just really appreciative that they considered me.
Well deserved. You're a Hall of Famer around here too. Thank you very much. With no other comments or anybody else have any other input, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. Call for a motion first. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment?
No, sir.
Ask you to vote accordingly. Thank you.
Mayor and council, I would ask you all to maybe stay seated because we have quite a bit of things that require signatures this evening from these resolutions. We can just pass them down the dais.
And so it shall be.
Thank you.